Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to GCS Connect Inclusion. Today, we're talking to Sorrel. Sorrel is an individual that I have known for about 25 years of my career, and I'm hugely excited to have this conversation with her. So without further ado, welcome, and let's get into the conversation. Sorrel,
Hi,
good
Aaron.
morning.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm really well. I should actually say good afternoon to you because you're all the way over the other side of the world.
Certainly am, and melting today. It's 38 degrees.
Oh my goodness me. So it'd be really great if you can just give us an introduction on who you are and obviously why you're here today with us.
Okay, well, my name is Sorrel, Forsey-Anderson. I've started out in the 80s in the workplace. Back then, I always find it difficult and that I've had to work twice as hard as kind of male colleagues and so on to get where I am now. But right now I'm working as the global head of sales for a manufacturing company based out of Perth here in Australia, and thoroughly enjoying it. And we'll probably cover a bit more about that later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I think without making us both sound incredibly old, that I think that we've actually known each other now for about 25 years, something around that number. And you were one of the first women that I ever got engaged with in recruitment and actually placed somebody. So thank you for that.
As I recall, you actually did that a few times for me, Erin. I kept coming back for more because you were very good
Glutton
at
for
what you do.
punishment.
Yeah.
And how long have you been over in Australia?
Just over 8 years now. We arrived the
Wow.
1st of January 2014.
Incredible, incredible. And what was the pull for you to go over there?
Change of lifestyle, wanted to get out of the rat race. Had a son that was going off the rails at the time, and really just wanted to have a complete change and a completely different focus in terms of family and outdoor lifestyle. So yeah, we
Wow.
moved.
And
And we
has it
thought,
lived
well,
up to
if it doesn't work out, we can always come back.
absolutely? And has it lived up to expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. To a bit of a bumpy start, but it's all that I'd hoped it would be.
Fantastic. Congratulations to you on that, because it's always great when things do live up to expectations. So obviously one of the reasons we're here is to talk about the inclusion, about diversity, and clearly that you faced some of the situations that some of us haven't as well. And I'd really like to just explore some of this. So I think that my first question to you is, can you just give us a bit of an understanding on what's changed for you being female from the 1980s to current day, really?
Well, I started out, as I said earlier, back in the workplace in the 1980s, and back then pay wasn't exactly equal for women. And in some cases, I guess it's still not now, but it's a lot better than it was. And in my opinion, women weren't really taken all that seriously back then, particularly by men, but also interestingly by women who had made it to senior positions. The first electronic component distribution company that I worked for openly admitted that it employed pretty women to open doors to sell to men.
No.
And there still aren't many female engineers, as far as I know, in the industry. I then went on to another company where it was in the electronics industry, a few companies, but as you know, the bottom fell out of the market in terms of distribution and manufacturing in the UK back in the 90s, really. And a lot of people were made redundant time and time again, and the market really shrunk, which made the terrain very competitive with male colleagues, counterparts. And during my course within that type of environment, and it being so male, I had some issues. I had both my children, both my sons. I've got three now, but both my sons back when I was in the electronics industry. And one particular company I worked for was very male, top heavy. And at 8 months pregnant, I experienced quite a chauvinistic situation where we had somebody coming over from the States who was very important vice president. And on a Friday afternoon, we used to kick back a bit. The guys would sit back in their chairs, put their feet on the desk. They'd drink a Budweiser, you know. It was in the days when things were quite lax in the UK on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I
And
remember
I was asked, would I please do the vacuuming? And at 8 months pregnant. And, you know, and I actually, when I got round to their desks, had to please ask them, would they kindly move out of the way?
So you actually did the vacuum. Not
I
only were
did.
you asked to, you actually carried it out. How did that make
I
you
actually
feel?
carried it out at 8 months pregnant. Yeah. While they were sitting back having a beer. Yeah. Because I was
Did
scared
you?
that if I didn't do it, it would backfire on me, particularly as
I
I
was
was
going to
back to back
say. I was
on
going to say,
maternity.
what were the thought process going on in your head about that? You know, with the fact of could you push back and say, no, I'm not doing it?
Oh, not in those days. No.
Wow.
No, I mean, these guys were older than I was at that time. You know, it's a different generation from
Yes.
now, you know.
But do you
You know,
think
the
that
younger
people
people.
use different generation as almost like an excuse that oh, that's just how it was? Not it. No way was it acceptable, but it was just the way it was.
No, not well, partially perhaps, but I think still now there are people who are chauvinistic or they've got some kind of ism, you know,
Yeah.
against whoever. And, you know, you just have to deal with that as you go through, you know, through your career. Another incident back then in the 90s was there was a sales conference was going on for a different company. I won't mention where it was because you know which company it was.
Mhm.
But two male colleagues of mine at the conference attempted to rape me on the way up in a lift towards my bedroom where we were all staying in a hotel. Anyway, I you know, you asked about was this just men? Well, I had a female director at the time,
Mm.
and I actually complained to her about it. Obviously, I wasn't raped, I'll have to say. I managed to get out of it, but she basically told me that nobody would believe me, and that because I wouldn't be believed, they would get away with it. And that's exactly what happened. Nothing was raised. It was just swept under the carpet, and that was it. Here in Australia, when I first started here, I had male managers above me in the company that I joined, and they used to do things like award, you know, I'd find business and then one of them would award another one with the business that I'd found to make it look like somebody else had got the figures, you know,
Wow.
and they got paid the commission that I'd earned for them. It really wasn't nice at all.
Can I just ask, because
Yeah,
I don't, obviously I don't want to go into the legalities of the
no,
incident that happened, you know, that's days gone by and it's your
course,
personal life.
course.
But with regards to the relationship that you had with your female colleague, your female boss, you know, what was that like?
We got on very, very well. She was very supportive, but I think she was, you know, the MD of the company was male, and she was,
Right.
you know, she did not want the women in the company, I feel, to appear weak or that, you know, that we
Do
were
you think that she
causing
would have felt
waves.
threatened if she'd have stood up for you as well?
Yeah,
Do you think that that would have
absolutely.
been part of the process?
Yes, absolutely, without doubt. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And
I
how did
left
that make
shortly
you feel?
afterwards.
I was going to say, how did that make you feel with regards to your relationship with her after that conversation took place as well?
Well, the whole situation for me was untenable.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't continue because I felt threatened by my male colleagues that had tried this. They
Yeah.
knew that they'd got away with it. It was a lose-lose situation. So, you know, rather than stay there and you know, try and persevere, it was better to move on to new pastures, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what did that do with regards to your confidence in the next role? And you know, tell me a little bit about the next environment that you went to.
Well, over here, I joined a company where there was a general manager who was a male. Um, and he was fine. He didn't want me, but the owner of the business wanted me. And actually, the owner of the business was one of my referees for the job that I'm currently in, and he's brilliant. He's a lovely, lovely guy. But his general manager loved to try and take credit for my work. And at one particular time, I'd done a presentation which he presented in a meeting, and as he was going through it, he was sinking and looking to me to bail him out. Well, I just let him carry on. And eventually I corrected him in front of the audience, and he looked quite silly, really. But I did it with a smile on my face and very professionally. There's ways around these things, you know, but yeah, again, not pleasant. It's as if certain people feel threatened by you being, you know, a professional at what you do.
Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that is really changing in a lot of environments. I'm not going to say all environments, because otherwise we wouldn't be having these conversations now and really trying to highlight them. But about the fact that you treat your colleagues as equals to then allow something else better to happen. It's a collaborative working environment now, rather than one fights for oneself.
Absolutely. You know, today, for instance, I have a team, and the other members of the team, apart from one of them, they're all men. And, you know, I am very conscious of the fact that, yes, I am female. I tread very, very carefully so as not to be a threat to their egos or their masculinity.
You still do that now?
I still do it because it's now inbuilt. You know, I'm very conscious of never upsetting people as far as I can, and to be inclusive and to listen, and to allow people to feel that they're actually being heard, because I never really was until recently.
But do you still feel that in, say, for example, if you were in a board meeting or in a sales management meeting, and majority of the people around the table are, let's just say, white male, okay?
Yep.
Do you feel that you can actually speak up and people hear you today to what happened, you know, 20, 30 years ago?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Things have definitely moved on. You know, and I'm 52 now. You know, there's a lot of people in the work. There's people my age that have already retired. Not that I'm planning on doing that anytime soon, but yeah, things have definitely changed. Things are much more inclusive. I suppose in the technical space, there's fewer females, but perhaps not in sales, but definitely on the engineering front. But, you know, my career has spanned through electronic component distribution and engineering, through hydrogen fuel cell technology, which was quite prominent person in that space throughout the globe back in those days. I'm talking 15, 20 years ago now. And then, you know, since I've been here, I've had to do or pick up new industries, but mostly in technical spaces, which has been good. But so I've been able to transfer my skills.
Fantastic. And let's explore how you're perceived out in the marketplace, because there is a real difference as well. Obviously, being female, in the working environment, you've got your own counterparts that you're trying to work with in a collaborative environment, etc. How have you been perceived during your career by customers? Because one of the things that I've certainly found talking to a lot of people in your situation is that that's been half the battle as well. You've never been taken seriously by actually the buyers or people trying to do technical design.
Well, it's really interesting you say that. I actually have not had any issues at all with people buying from me, other than one particular guy who will have been retired for a very long time by now, but he was a customer that was, funnily enough, in Reading years ago. And he was very old school, and I will never forget the experience. He loved to have me in, just chat to me, etc. And then he went and did the dirty behind my back with the manufacturer and gave the business to somebody who was actually giving him a backhander.
So bribery,
That was
basically.
I big learning curve for me, taught me to ask
Absolutely.
the right questions and to evaluate very quickly, and an interesting experience. But no, generally speaking, I just behave as I normally would towards anybody. I'm open, honest. I ask the right questions, and I ask the difficult questions, which is important because you need to feel those customers need to feel like they're in a partnership with you, and that it's a two-way street, that you're not in for
Absolutely.
one bite of the apple and off you go. You're there to to forge these relationships that are going to last for years and that are going to be mutually beneficial.
Absolutely. I find as well that anybody that is still stuck in the how things used to be or how it was back then, etc., they're very much in a one-horse race these days. And at the end of the day, it's those that fall out and lose out because
Yeah,
it's about collaboration nowadays. So with
exactly.
regards to the life lessons that you've learned going through your career, what part have you played with regards to your existing business and your career with regards to getting more inclusion out there?
Well, I've worked very hard to get to where I am, and I've had personal challenges along the way too. I was a single parent
Hmm.
to two boys for some years, and that taught me to juggle, to focus on key messages and workflows, and to expertly organize and prioritize my time, as you can imagine. I couldn't afford to fail either them or me, and so it made me very determined. My current role is in a company that's owned by a woman, and
Brilliant.
the general manager there is also a woman. I don't have anything against men. I really
No.
don't. I love men. I'm married to one. I've got two sons that are men. I've also got a very strong daughter. She's getting that way anyway, 14 and starting to show her colours. But both are strong, these women. They're focused leaders who empower their staff to drive the business forward, and that's men and women. And as I
Mhm.
say, I manage men as well. And I think if the balance is right in a working environment, then a whole company can benefit from it and move forward. And
Absolutely.
that's what I try to achieve.
Fantastic. And if you had any counsel, if you could stand in front of an auditorium of mixed people of race, gender, sexuality, etc., what would your advice be to succeed in a male dominant environment?
My advice would be to adopt your own solid core values. The core values in the company that I'm currently with, and hope to stay with for a long period of time, are that to be inclusive and diverse, to be enthusiastic, supportive, inclusive and hungry. We're all pulling in the same direction and achieving goals together. So really, and I identify with the core values of this company: to be a game changer, to be results orientated, to care, to have fun, and also to be honest, and have integrity. It's most important. And a key piece of advice I would give is that you have two ears and one mouth, and I train staff with this one. You have two ears and one mouth, and you should always use them in proportion, because the more you listen, the more you find out, and the more you can tailor your approach to your audience. So never get involved in company politics or bad mouthing people, because it always
Mm,
comes back to bite you in the arse.
totally. Yeah.
And especially not your competition, either internally in the business or externally. Compliment them. And lastly, ignore bad behavior and reward good.
Fantastic. So brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And if there's one thing that you've learned that you can give as a key nugget bit of advice, what would that be?
Be yourself. Be honest.
Be you.
Be
Fantastic.
you.
So
Be real.
brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed
Thank
the
you for having me.
conversation.
It's been a
It's been
privilege. Thanks,
absolutely
James.
awesome. And thank you for being you, because as I said, I've enjoyed our relationship for the last 25 years. And I think that you're a true testament on, what good looks like in our industry.
Me too. And I hope to see you on my trip over very soon to the UK.
Look forward to it. Take care. Cheers for now,
Cheers.
Sorrel.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.